Hi, you're watching Xperienced TV. This is day 2 of EGX in Birmingham, NEC. I have a strange feeling there's something behind me. Oh, f***! So, at the EGX, there's a whole section here dedicated to retro games. We're going to have a look at a few of these now. There's a Binatone TV Master Mark 6. Unfortunately, we can't see anything on the screen, which is a shame. From the sound of it, it's playing Pong, which would have been fun. I've actually got the Binatone Mark 10, which came out a little while later. The first one that we've got that's actually working is an old Vectrex. This is a vector-based home console that was released in 1980s. And I think this is kind of like an Asteroids clone. Now the whole point of this is it doesn't use a cathode ray tube like all the other stuff does. It's actually drawn with lasers, which made it a fantastic thing back in the 80s, but it didn't really take off. So you can see here, whoa. The game itself would normally have an overlay on the screen, so you get colours, but it looks like this one's missing that. Try not to die. Sure. I got the UFO. Gotcha. And there we go. The screen is really bright. This one survived really well. A lot of the Vectrex don't survive very well, and if you can find one, they're worth a lot of money right now. So the Atari 2600 is another one, very popular in the 70s and the parts of the 80s, but the whole thing, oh god, the whole thing with the Atari games is they ended up causing the video game crash. They invested their money really badly, and that led to people losing a lot of confidence in games. And yeah, the next two items here, they became the most popular things available in the 80s. This is the Commodore 64. And The Last Ninja, which was a really popular game on that thing, and I seem to be dying very badly on here. These consoles, well, they're not consoles, they're home computers. Whenever you used to play them, it took at least 5 to 10 minutes to load a game. That's when video games used to really be good for health, because as your game was loading, you would go out and ride your bike or something. But I am really bad at this. But as 8-bit consoles go, the Commodore 64 was one of the best, and it still is. The sound chips inside the Commodore 64 are still used to this day to create original music. So if you ever hear a chip tune on the internet, it's probably made on the SID chip, which came from the Commodore 64. I am facing the wrong way and getting my arse kicked. Sadly, this isn't working. Sinclair ZX Spectrum with 1K RAM. It had soft keys, which was really nice. My first time I ever programmed on this and the Amstrad. Speaking of Amstrad, this thing. The Amstrad GX 4000 was a massive flop. I have one. It sucks. It was supposed to be a competitor to the NES and things like that back in the day, but it really didn't do very well. Oh God. You can see here how dodgy these graphics are. I mean, compared to the things that were around at the time when the GX 4000 was released, this is really poor. The controls are just terrible. No wonder it just died on its arse. Let's find something better. Another one that was really early and for some reason is not working is the ColecoVision. This was around about the same time as the Atari 2600 and was one of its biggest competitors. I wish we could have this one working. It was much better than some of the Atari stuff that came out around the same time. Two of perhaps the biggest rivals for personal computers back in the early 90s were Commodore and Atari. Over here we have the Commodore A1200, which had an AGA chipset for graphics, and at the time it was really good. It meant 16-bit graphics and never looked better. And over here is the Atari 520 ST. Again, excellent graphics on here. You had arcade quality games. This looks like Super Sprint. So the games on here were always, whoa, I'm really bad. But normally, this doesn't turn. Okay. Well, I'm dead. So the games on the Atari ST and the Commodore, normally very similar. And back in the 90s, you either had an ST or you had a Commodore Amiga. I had the Amiga. I much preferred it. I had the A500 and the A600. I never really graduated to the A1200, though I wish I had. Never mind. So this is the Nintendo Entertainment System. This was a really, perhaps the most popular console released in the UK. And it heralded really the major return for the home console genres. Back in 1986, I believe they released this, and I had one, and it was brilliant. And again, back then there was a massive console war going on. You either had a Nintendo or you had a Sega. I was a Nintendo fanboy, but in the end I ended up getting the Mega Drive as well as the Super Nintendo. And sometimes you really just cannot beat old 8-bit games. Although I think they seem to be beating me. Jump over that. Oh dear. This is some kind of Star Wars game. Not quite sure which one. The good thing is you can always find out by just flipping the top, and it is just Star Wars. Great. If you look out on the channel, and you'll probably see a video of me repairing one of these, because my one broke a little while ago, and I am about to die a horrible death again. Oh crap. This was Nintendo's 16-bit console, and at the time you either had one of these or you had a Mega Drive. If you're fortunate, you had both. And I spent many hours playing this. There was also the first Mario Kart game appeared on the Super Nintendo, and Super Mario World. Again, many hours were wasted playing those games, and I have very fond memories of these systems. This really is something I haven't seen for a while. The 3DO. This one's made by Gold Star. It was also made by Panasonic. And the system never really took off. Oh geez. Although it did have fairly good graphics at the time. The only problem with the 3DO is very soon the PlayStation came out. And then everyone just gravitated towards Sony. Oh my god. Okay, this is so old. I haven't played one of these for a very long time. This is a TurboGrafx. The games came on cards for this. What's this game? Super Star Soldier. For the time, this was a very slick console, and it was a massive selling system in Japan. Again, this is one of those consoles where if you've got one, it's worth a fair amount of money. So check in your attic, and if you've got one, send it to me. Okay, so, I should pay attention to what I'm doing. So again, after the Super Nintendo, they released the Nintendo 64. At the time, this was a groundbreaking effort into going into 64-bit graphics and also the next generation of 3D. However, one of the biggest mistakes that Nintendo made is that they didn't continue their relationship to build a CD add-on for their Super Nintendo. That ended up being their downfall, as that add-on split away and became the Sony PlayStation. So it makes you wonder what Nintendo might be if that had happened. So that's some of the old consoles that are here. There's still a few more that we haven't touched on. I can see a Sega Saturn, an Atari Jaguar, a Neo Geo. There's tons of stuff here, but we haven't got time to go through all of it. I wish we had, because it would be fantastic. But if you're at EGX, come along to this section, bring your mates, and you can have a go on some of the old games. There's a lot of 4-player stuff set up. So over there, I think they've got some action going on with Bomberman and a few others. Looks like someone's cheating with a pause button. We'll see. There's also some old arcade games. They've got pinball machines here as well. So yeah, come along to the retro section and the replay celebration and the replay events over here at EGX and have some go on retro stuff. Okay, so that's the second day at EGX 2015. We've got 2 more days of this to go, and I don't know whether our legs and our backs can take it, but we'll give it our best shot. So until the next time, until the next video, catch you later. Bye.